Keep it up, son. Jab, jab. Hit him hard. Uppercut. Body blow. Tear that armor up back. The punch is mightier than the sword. You ain't no half fighter, man. You ain't no half fighter, man. Ain't no half fighter, man. Half fighter, man. Half fighter, man. Half fighter, man.
Little Mac sucks in the air and is amazing on the ground. That's basically what he's been known for since day one, and sadly a lot of his moveset is overlooked because of that. But from what I researched, Mr. Sakurai put a lot of thought into our boxer from the Bronx. So today, I'm going to show you guys the deeper elements embedded into Little Mac's moveset, to show off that there's more to this glass cannon than meets the eye.
Wow! Come on, bitch! It's Sonic Speed!
Little Mac had his first beginnings in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! Obviously, known today as Punch-Out on the NES. Contrary to what people believe, it was actually just changed to Punch-Out featuring Mr. Dream because licensing expired and Nintendo was like, oh, you're not the heavyweight champion anymore. Right. Oh, okay, so you're just gonna be out of the game and we're gonna kick you out, you tattooed face f***! But anyways, Punch-Out! It's a very simple game in controls and what the objective is, but once you dug into it, it noticeably became harder and harder. It's like it took all it could out of traditional boxing and put it into a game. If you remember in my "Why do you know your moves?", where you're in such a fast-paced environment and only have a short amount of time to understand a situation and react, clues need to be made obvious to the player immediately so players can determine what to do. It's the same type of situation in Punch-Out with your opponents. If you've played the game, you'll know that these characters have different quirks and reactions in certain situations, where Mac has to wait for an opening to punch his opponents. As you progress through Punch-Out, this margin where you have to find your opponent's weakness, not get hit, and actually hitting them, gets smaller and smaller, to a point where if you slip up once, it could very well mean game over for Mac. Now, how does that migrate into Smash 4? Let's be real, Little Mac is not that good compared to other characters on the cast. He's naturally at a disadvantage. He stinks in the air. And in a game where you need to recover in the air and juggle opponents, that can be very detrimental. I mean, why would you design a character where all his flaws lie in the air when... But I wonder if Mr. Sakurai had intended this disadvantage all along. I wonder if he wanted to make Mac similar to how he is in Punch-Out! Remember, he's Little Mac for a reason. Clocking in at an astounding 5'7", 107 pounds, and get this, he's 17 years old. Like, yo, how are you going up against Mike Tyson? Little Mac is disadvantaged at first glance, but I think he has the potential to beat anyone, if he channels that potential in the right places. He's just gotta not get hit and capitalize on his opponent's weaknesses. In Smash we can see this too, and though we have characters like Diddy and oh boy I'm gonna get to you, you little shit. But when you have characters like him with astonishing strengths and minimal weaknesses, characters like Mac seem like a joke in comparison. Not to shoehorn this in, but I've played Ganondorf my whole life as a competitive smasher. If there's one thing I've learned through the tough life he makes you live, it's that you always have a chance. Doesn't matter about matchup strengths or who's top tier or nothing. It's who's the better player. So, Little Mac succeeds as a character when you can utilize his crazy ground control and minimize the amount of times his opponents can act on his weaknesses. This forces you to play a pretty tough game, huh? I'd say Little Mac is one of the toughest characters to succeed with, but when you do, the results are catastrophic. I know I'll sound like Isaiah or something, but it's not about who hits more, it's about not getting hit. I know you could describe all of competitive Smash 4 like this, but it's a bit more relevant for Little Mac. After all, it trails all the way back to his roots, and I don't mean Punch-Out, but boxing as a whole. Little Mac doesn't only reflect traditional boxing in his playstyle, but also the design of his character. And you might be saying, man, Little Mac is probably the easiest character to make moves for. After all, it's just a punch here, uppercut there, hook there. I mean, every character does that. How could he be unique? And well, my fine feathered friends, I think Mr. Sakurai thought the same way. Knew these thoughts would arise, and in turn, forced him to create one of the most factually correct characters in all of Smash Brothers. So for this I had to dig deep, brush up on my boxing knowledge. What kind of punches did he do? Stances, techniques, the works, to see how Little Mac stacked up against all of it. But what it came down to is, a lot of fundamental techniques professional boxers use and practice were thought about specifically when considering how Little Mac would move across the battlefield. Remember, in Punch-Out, throughout all the gameplay, you only see the character from one angle. The whole game! Like, the back of your head ridiculous, Mac. What you doing out there? First, let's look at his stance, just when he's standing around. Notice where his hands are placed and how he's hopping around on his toes, always moving. Boxers do this in the ring all the time, and it's done for a few reasons. In any sport, you do this to increase your reaction time, literally being on your toes, so that you can move around quicker, react to opponents, and frankly, keep a rhythm in your movement. Also, during Mac's attacks, do you ever hear him make weird noises? Well, this little detail's pretty neat, and I think it's shared across all the Smash Bros. Characters. When you're punching in boxing, you're supposed to breathe out during the punch. Why? Well, it maximizes your strength of the punch, and also lets your blood pump, letting you retain stamina, and ultimately, letting you last longer. This is why you're told to do it in weightlifting and running. You don't hold your breath. Don't do that. Seriously, guys, be healthy and breathe. Next, you'll notice his gloves are always above his waist. Elbows tucked into his sides, one glove forward with his leading foot, and another closer to his face with his other foot. Again, this isn't any coincidence. You know how some characters flip around in Smash 4? It was a new mechanic implemented so the faces of characters were always showing. Characters like Samus and Link didn't have this because either they were left-handed in something or they had different things on each arm. But Little Mac is completely symmetrical, so that can only mean that his stance is very important. That's because this left foot leading stance is called the Orthodox Stance and is very popular in traditional boxing. It's done to put your weaker side forward and strengthen your dominant arm for a counter jab. So I guess Mac is a righty. And when I say he keeps his gloves like this at all times, I mean it. He's always got his guard on. You can see this when he tiptoes, crouches, through all his attacks, and even in his run, because Mac always makes the effort to keep his feet behind him to strengthen his attacks. Remember guys, all the power comes from your legs. That's true in boxing, football, and even when you gotta lift something heavy like a box of tools or life commitments. This provides me with the perfect segue, and I think it closes the case as to why Little Mac is just so gosh darn bad in the air. It may be because Little Mac is just a regular old human being. Now, I'm not saying being able to take on Mike Tyson's exactly regular, but he's just a kid from the Bronx. Maybe he can't fight or punch in the air is because neither can we. In the air, you have no leverage and can't get any power into a kick or a punch because you're off the ground. The strongest thing you have is gravity hurtling your body towards Earth. In boxing or fighting at all, the power of your punch is not in your arm. It's how you release power from your legs, channel it with your hips, and then angle it with your punch. So in turn, when Mac's swinging all over the place in the air, it's literally because he ain't an air fighter. It's also the reason why Jolt Haymaker is so fast and travels so far on the ground, but is so mediocre in the air. Oh, so mediocre in the air. When considering all of this, Little Mac retains a lot of key factors that real boxers do, and a lot of his design choices were logical. And sure, you're gonna have a lot of crazy smash type moves like Rising Uppercut, KO Punch, and gosh, Giga Mac. But at the core, Little Mac has a lot of research into how he moves and why he's designed the way he is. It was a big breath of fresh air for me to discover it. And yeah, I know, I didn't go over specific moves this time around because, well, what do you want me to tell you? He's got punches, hooks, uppercuts, and the Rising Uppercut is kinda like the Star Punch in Punch-Out. There, I did it. A whole 3 seconds, that's his moveset. And besides, I think what I covered is a bit more interesting, and helped you show the amount of detail Masahiro Sakurai and the whole Smash team put into Smash characters. Anyways, what do you guys think about Little Mac? Do you love the guy? Do you hate him? Let me know. Seriously, this was probably one of the most fun Know Your Moves yet, because I got to research the character and not just his gameplay, but also in other aspects of life. That's not something you can do with a lot of videos or in a lot of series, and it's actually really fun. I learned a lot about boxing that I didn't know. I knew about the punching thing, and I knew about breathing out, but I didn't link it all together, and I didn't see that Little Mac actually did that. It's really cool. He actually breathes out air as he punches, and I know Captain Falcon does that, but it's really cool. He's like, and it's like, that's what actual boxers do. It's cool. It's really, really cool. I think I've been rambling long enough. So, thank you for watching, guys. You said you liked these ending ramblings, and I mean, they're fun. They are fun. So, whatever. If people hate on me for them, I'm sorry. Like, they're just chilling. I'm really not doing it for, like, you know, I'm not trying to cheat you out of video. Like, this is, like, a solid 2 minutes, and you're like, what the hell? I thought this video was, like, 20 minutes, and you cheated me. Like, that's not the point. Anyways, thank you for watching. I'll see you on the flip side. Take it easy, folks.
I suck. How did you even manage that? How? You can grab onto that, but not the ledge. How did you even manage? Well, you got the ledge. You happy?